Hey guys, do another video here on troop formations. Try to go a little more detail. For the most part, we just kind of glossed over it. The Golem video the other day kind of showed you how to look at the attack side, but this time we want to look at when you're attacking a person who's actually going to attack back instead of just a dummy that's just there to be hit. So the first thing that you need to understand is how your troops are going to be laid out. Obviously we don't actually see the battle, but basically if you can kind of picture an old medieval battle with the two armies lined up on either side, that's kind of how combat works in here. At the front of your army is going to be all of your infantrymen. And then standing behind your infantrymen are going to be your cavalry, and then standing behind your cavalry are going to be your bowmen. And siege are weird, so we're just going to ignore siege. So what that means is, for the most part, your infantry will die before your cavalry will die before your archers. So that's why it's important when you attack someone that you have a lot of infantry. And then, like I've mentioned before, each class has two different types. So with your infantry, you have warriors here, and you have spearmen. And warriors will always stand in front of spearmen, so your warriors will die before spearmen. And troops also will stand according to their level. So these T8 infantry will stand before the T10 infantry. And likewise, the other warriors will stand in front of those. So the T6 will stand in front of the T8, the T4 will stand in front of them, and the T2 will stand in front of them. So that's why when I'm attacking an actual player, I'll send a little bit of T10, I'll send a lot of T10, and I'll send just a little bit of T8, because I know I'm going to lose some infantry no matter what, and I would rather lose something that doesn't cost me as much. So this way I can heal these for cheaper, and I'm not losing my expensive T10. So, then likewise, with cavalry, you're going to have the same thing here. Oops. Trained, you have heavy cavalry and light cavalry. Your heavy cavalry will stand in front of light, and you'll have the same thing. So if I use cavalry, which I generally don't, because I find that they just die and they don't do enough damage to be worth it, but the same thing, my T9 cavalry will stand in front of my T10 cavalry, so they would die first. So if I were attacking with T8s, then I would want some T7s to protect them, because these are also heavy cavalry. And then bowmen, your two classes are crossbowmen and archers. And crossbowmen will stand in front of archers. And then, mentioned in another video, you get a little bit of wonky things, because like your archers here will skip infantry and they'll attack cavalry. And your crossbowmen will skip warriors and they will attack spearmen. So once you kind of are able to visualize how that works, then you can kind of begin to think of how your formation is. So we're going to take a look at a rally that we did against Andro and kind of show you what to look for when you're looking at a report, so you can begin to understand what happened. Obviously Yambo has really good stats, so we were able to win. But this was megas into megas, so everyone's stats were really good. So if we look at Andro's, this is Andro's troops here, we see that all of his T8 infantry died, and about 2/3 of his T10 infantry died. So all of the T8 died before, and then it jumped to the T10. And since the Immortals are spearmen and they stand behind the warriors, none of the T9 were even wounded. So this is why when we do mega rallies, it's really important that you send T8s and not T9s, because the T9s basically don't help. If we already ate through all of our T10s, we already lost the battle. So T8s are helpful because that'll protect the T10s for longer, whereas T9s are not as helpful because that means we already lost our T10s. And then likewise, you can see he had a little bit of cavalry in there, they all died. And then all of his bowmen, which were behind, Very few of those dies, and the ones that did, these wounded would have been caused by cavalry that we sent when we attacked. So you'll kind of see the same thing. It hit the archers down here. These are crossbowmen, these are crossbowmen, here's archers again, so the archers were what got hit, and then it jumped up to the next level, and that was as far as it got. So these archers got a little bit wounded. And you'll see that same pattern no matter who we're looking at. So this guy only hit T8 infantry, and they all died. But all of his bowmen survived. All the cavalry died because they tried to run out ahead. And same thing here, we have, I don't know what his name is. You see he had T10, they died, all the bowmen, they're alive because they stand behind the infantry. And then same thing, you see his T8 died, and all of his spearmen lived. And you'll see the same thing on the attacking side once we get down there. Keep scrolling, sorry, it's being a little laggy here. Come on. So here you can see Yambo's troops, and you'll see the same concept. His spearmen here, none of them got hit at all. They all survived with no wounded. His T10, he lost just a little bit. Well, I guess more than a little bit, because since we were in their fort, even though we're defending, we're considered the attackers, so we still got losses, not just wounded. So we lost a lot of infantry there. I think this was his second attack, so we already cleared out a lot of the T8 infantry that was in front of it. And then the same thing, you can see all the bowmen, just a little bit got lost, and that was from the cavalry that they sent. And that kind of shows you why cavalry are so bad. You traded T9 and T10 cavalry, and all you got was some level 1 short bowmen. And then you can kind of see the same thing here. There were a bunch of T9s. The T9s didn't even get hit. The T10s did. So that's the basic concept that you want to understand when you're setting up your troops. So now let's show how you can mess around with your formation. And this is something that the Spire is really good for, because you're always going to be, you can set up so you're always attacking the same person, and you know their stats aren't going to change. So hopefully this is someone I do not beat. We'll start off with a bad attack here. Also, you might notice my troop count here is really high. If you use your march boost before you enter the Spire, they will last the entire time for your Spire. So they'll last, since I'm so far, it'll last me 3 days. But it's a good idea to do, especially if you're getting to where it's at least last 2 days long. So let's go back here, check the revenge list. Revenge this person here. Let's send a bad attack just so that way I can see if I win or not. Yeah, so all of her stats are pretty good, so I should not be able to beat her, so I should be able to hit her a bunch of times. I think it was this one. So to kind of start off with, we'll just do an empty formation with my dragon. And I kind of like, depending on how strong of a person you're attacking, this kind of depends on how many infantry you want to have. So since I know that she's stronger than me, I want to minimize my losses and maximize my kills. So I'm going to send about, I think that should be about 2/3. Obviously not everyone's going to have this many troops, so if you didn't have this much, then you could send your lower tier. And since this is Spire and we don't have to care about healing, I don't need to send any T8 to protect them. And then after that, so like I said, Cav, I'll just kind of show you how they're not that good. And then you send some bowmen. And then like we learned from the Golem video, we don't want to send just all of our bowmen, all of our best bowmen, like this would be a bad attack. So we send a little bit less. And we send some T9s. And we'll send some T8s. And we'll send some of those. So we're sending a little bit of everything. And we're basically just sending a lot of infantry. And we're just going to show how bad the cavalry are. And then we're sending some bowmen behind them. And you can see here, I killed 50,000 and she killed 112,000. We'll look at the battle details so we can kind of see what happened. So we can see that I probably have too many infantry because so many survived. So I didn't need as many as I sent. And you can see with the cavalry, I lost 37,000, and out of that I only killed 7,000. So part of this is that my stats aren't that good, but part of this is just the way cavalry work. I don't like them. Since they run out in front of my infantry, they don't have as high of defense or HP as the infantry do, and they take a lot more damage, and they're not able to get enough kills to justify it. And then you see the same thing, since I did get beat, you can see I lost some of my infantry, and you can see the T9s did not get wounded while the 7s and 8s and 10s did. Because these are crossbowmen and these are archers. You can see her formation here. She's got a lot of everything, so she's probably just using her normal formation, not doing anything special. You can see she does have a lot more cavalry, and hers were more effective. But she also has better stats, and that's more so why it works. So let's try fighting her again. Last time I sent about 80,000, and that was probably too many, so we're going to dump it down to maybe 65,000. We're not going to send any cavalry because we know that they aren't going to help. So that means I can send a little bit more bowmen. I can send a little bit more of these. And these. And these. And now I'm able to send more tiers, which should help me do more damage. And at this point, I'm going to come up here and I'm going to send more of those. Actually, I don't want to send more than the higher tier. So let's do something like that. So you always want to make sure you're sending more of your higher tier. So I don't know if this is the best ratio, but I tend to do about half, and then half, and then once I get here, I kind of do 10,000 of each. I don't notice a significant difference from my experiments with Golem, but Golem is a good way to see how much damage you're doing. So let's send this march, and then now you see I was able to win. So we go to battle details. So I lost a little bit more infantry this time, but I still had enough to withstand the attack. And then since I was dealing a lot more damage, I was able to kill more, and then also I didn't have any cavalry that were basically throwing away kills for very little. So that's kind of how we begin to experiment with our troops. So even though she had basically better stats in everything, with a better formation, I was able to beat her. So let's do the same thing and try on this guy here. We'll just send a bunch of infantry. We're going to lose. So we can kind of see, what is the stat comparison that we have. And the same thing, you can see I have a couple stats higher, but for the most part, they're higher in everything. So let's take a look at what their formation was, and then we can get an idea of what we need to send. So he just sent T10, so this is a bad formation. And again, hopefully we have close enough stats that we can overcome this formation. So we'll do the same thing. We'll send around 70,000 infantry, and we'll see if we need to send more or less from there. We don't want to send any cavalry because we know they're not very good. And then we just basically send a bunch of bowmen that we're going to set behind them, who we want to do a lot of damage. And so it wasn't too terribly far off, but he did kill more. So let's see if we can look at what we need to do. And again, this tells me that I probably have too many infantry because I survived with 52,000. You can see he did get into my bowman because he does have a good amount of cavalry. You can see for him it did work out. I don't fully understand why, but again, it's probably just because his stats are better than mine, so they are able to basically live long enough to actually start doing kills. So, oops. Let's put this down to that. We'll send that, that, that. And we did get a little bit closer, but it just might be that his stats are a little bit too much higher than mine. We'll try one more thing. So I'm going to send a little bit less of these. I'm going to send a little bit of spearmen and see if they do better against his cavalry. And again, we did get closer. You can see we're only losing by 8,000 troops now. Didn't seem like the infantry here helped that much. They only got 237 kills, and since they weren't even attacked, they didn't help any there. So let's keep tweaking. Let's try you around there. I'm going to try sending my own cavalry. I don't think it's going to work out, but that's kind of the thing, because you never want to let your assumptions prevent you from finding out your own. And there we go. So this time we were able to get the victory because we were able to kill more than he killed. So again, even though all of his stats pretty much are better, except for where I have a slight advantage, and infantry defense where I have a slight advantage, bowman damage I have a little bit bigger advantage, but not great. We were able to find a formation that allowed us to win. And again, the cavalry were still a bad idea. because they gave away a lot of losses for only a little bit. Although it might have worked out because it got the bowman attacking them instead of getting to my bowman as quickly. So I guess in a way it might have been worth it, but I'm not a fan of cavalry. I haven't liked anything that I've seen from them. But hopefully that gives you an idea of how to look at formations, how to experiment at it, how to utilize the Spire, especially to give you an idea of what to look for and how to tweak your formations. And basically this is my normal attacking formation. It starts with the baseline of about 50,000 infantry with about 10,000 to protect them. And the idea is this is for real attacks, not the Spire, so I do have to worry about heal cost. And then kind of all my bowmen are set up around how I want them. And then depending on how strong of the person I think I'm attacking is, I might add a little bit more infantry or I might add more bowmen. So if I think I'm going to win, I might take down the infantry and then add more T9s and T10s. And that's kind of what you want to scout and look for and do your comparisons there. So that should give you a good idea of how to play around your stats, what to look for, how to make yourself stronger. Because at the end of the day, that's all this game is stats and formations. As always, if you have questions, always feel free to message me. I'm always happy to help you guys out.